Hey babies. Hey babies. Hey babies. Hey babies. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Happy Thursday. Look who it is. It's Callow. Callow's back. Callow had his mini bye week because the Caps, like the Commanders, had a bye week in December. What's up, Callow?
What's going on? It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
Been zoned out for a little bit over the last couple of days.
You went to South Carolina, so did I. You went to Myrtle Beach, 'cause that's where your parents live. I went to Charleston, which I talked about earlier this week. I haven't talked about much about it because I don't know what there is to say. I did like it there, and I might retire there. So, Ted, if you need like someone to work for the Stingrays, when I'm at an advanced age, I'd be open to it, but like, we're talking 15, 20 years from now, but like, I'd be open to it then.
Is that your that's your Woj move? You would go to South Carolina?
It was pretty. Very pretty. I mean, it was beautiful. I'd never been to Charleston before. It's beautiful. The weather wasn't that great. It was cold, but like, it's beautiful. It's like a large Georgetown. Like at the downtown part of it, it's all the old houses, cobblestone streets, beautifully maintained. They take preservation very seriously there. The houses are gorgeous. Some of them are just absolutely enormous. Like you can't believe how big they are. And then the beach is 10 minutes away. And then, I guess if you're a golfer, it's a golfing paradise down there. Like it's really great. It's beautiful. But the one eerie thing is like, why the money was there, because it's the slave trade. And so there's that part of it that's like, every time you walk by these houses, you're like, I know why this is here. And like, why there was so much wealth there. That said, like, it's beautiful. And the preservation basically of the city, it's gorgeous. So we had a great time. Food was great too. So really nice.
Nice. Yeah. Can't go wrong there. It's a place that looks nice and some good food.
Correct. Yeah, beautiful. Anyway. All right, let's get into what's going on here because you've missed everything. So the Wizards are 2-19. If you missed that,
they haven't won since I came back.
Three. My bad. 3-19. My bad.
Yes. That three though on Saturday night was pretty ridiculous. They were missing everybody. Jokic scored 50. It was a little ridiculous, but they had to win at some point. I mean, that's all it is now. Here's the bigger question with them. Will they get to 10 wins? 10. Will they? Because I assume they're going to start trading off a couple of their better players sooner rather than later. I would assume Kuzma's lost his mind and like needs to get out of here. And I like guys, like I get the whole tank thing, but this ain't it. Like this is pathetic. So, and I can't even like you mentioned the Denver game. Like I'm aware it happened, but I was not interested nor cared to turn it on because when you guys decide you're going to try again, let me know because I'm kind of out. I can't follow a team that's this god awful purposefully. I can't do it. I mean, I don't disagree with the following part, but I will eat my words here. I have said for how many years since I've known you, the worst part about the Wizards was their middling. They're not middling anymore.
No.
They definitively suck.
This is worse.
They suck, though, in a year where they could get this flag guy and could turn things around. Like I have to just turn my head away from the disaster. Because
underline could get this guy.
Okay.
There's no guarantee they get this guy, right? And like I'm looking at the number 2 overall pick they got, and it's screaming Sixers. Like most of those guys outside of Embiid didn't work out, actually. So I'm like if they don't get the guy, then guess what? This will all be for nothing, really. Because is Koulibaly going to be great? Keep telling me that. Is Sarr going to be great? Maybe. I don't think so. Stop selling me on the 18-year-old point guard we have. Like none of these. Like this is a little bit of all they have to do is hit on one of them. But it's a little bit of the Nationals thing where they're like, we're getting better. You'll see. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like your team's not very good. Like what are you talking about? Like no, you're not.
Yeah.
And guys, this Sarr guy is supposed to be one of the answers down the road. Is he? Is he, guys? Is he? Because if he isn't, you better pray you land on whatever unicorn is coming out of this draft. Because if you don't, you guys are going to stink in perpetuity, really, honestly.
You could make the argument that they got the number 2 overall pick last year, though, when they weren't really trying for it. Like they were still kind of wheeling out the old monumental, this is the crew that we're rolling with. Whereas this is the first year where they literally said out loud, guys, it's going to be a little worse than we even think this time. And so they did like once again, I go by the, if you're telling me what I need to hear versus what is actually happening, I'm going to criticize you. They told us day one of training camp, hey, hold on to those good memories this year because you're going to appreciate them later. And I remember going, oh God, if they're saying that, they're going to be even worse than we think. And here we are. Like, I cannot be mad at that for now. I get it.
I'm not mad at honesty. I agree with you. There's no reason to be mad at honesty. And they're being honest about it. And we've asked them to kind of do this for a while.
Yes.
But it's even worse than I thought. So much so that me can't look away from sports, cannot watch this. Like, I'm like, guys, call me up when you grow up. It's like, it's the AAU team playing the Lakers. Like, I can't watch this because night by night, they're going to lose by 30, and every once, like, I can't hang on to the every once in a while. Like, let me see what's going on with the Celtics, guys. Cause I can't, if I'm going to get into the NBA right now, it cannot be through you. Like, sorry. No,
I mean, I 100% agree, but it's also, they are wheeling out 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. And you and I know how that's just going to work in today's NBA. So I'm just saying, it's not, I don't like watching it, but I also am like, okay, you told me this is how it was going to be. And in fact, remember we killed them 2 years ago where we were like, why didn't you suck when Wembanyama was coming out?
Correct.
Now there's this guy. And once again, I can't get all worked up about it. I can acknowledge that they suck, but I can't get as worked up as I did a couple years ago.
If they end up in the lottery getting the 3rd overall pick, it's just going to be like, oh my God.
So Wizards. It'd be so Wizards.
All that for nothing. All right. Here's what else is going on. So it's all ramped up for the RFK Stadium site. I will reiterate what I've said for months and years about this. The red tape on top of the red tape and what you have to do for everybody else to push this thing along step by step is the reason why I never believed it was going to happen at all. But I was turned on once we got the new ownership, then there was at least a chance. Once Roger Goodell got personally involved, so it became very clear that he and the league want this to happen. That's different because now you're lobbying with the power of the most culturally relevant and most enriched league in the country on your behalf. So this isn't a typical stadium deal. Roger Goodell doesn't go to the governor of New York and say, we have to have this Bills thing at this spot. They let that happen. They're going to let the Cleveland thing happen. They let the Tennessee thing happen. Not this one. They're personally involved. So once they got personally involved, I went, okay, I'm now actually going to give this a 50-50 shot of happening. But here we are on December 12th, 8 days away from them going into a recess. And currently we've got mad scrambling by a wild number of senators, ones at least locally now that I at least understand their position that they want things, but the things they want are somewhat ridiculous to make this happen, just to get it into a bill that then has to be passed and then has to be signed by the White House. And the last time I checked, the president is either pardoning people or napping. So I'm not sure whether this is going to really, really happen. And the Post had a piece today that basically said Muriel Bowser described it as we're being held hostage by Maryland senators. I knew this would. I didn't know if the Virginia people would get involved. Who knows? The Louises of the Senate, they're going to show up and get in the way of this. Maryland, on one side, I understand one of the things they want. They want to know what's going to happen to Northwest Stadium. It's not going to become an eyesore and just sit there. That doesn't make any sense. It's prime real estate. And the reason why RFK looks the way it does is because the federal government has dragged its feet on what can be done with that land. And we've had our hands tied behind our back with doing something with it. The Harris Group, the Maryland government, PG County, whatever, this is privately owned. So they're not going to leave it there to rot. They're going to do something with it. But I do understand that they want to know what that's going to be. And so I get that, I think, is a fair, what do you plan to do with this if you walk out of here? I think that's totally fair.
Yeah, when I landed on this last week, I essentially said the same thing. There's nothing wrong with them asking that question and getting some kind of outline of what's ready to go, because you also don't want them to just say, we're going to give this to the highest bidder. And then whatever developer comes in and just puts, apartments, luxury apartments, or, something that's just not going to benefit the county. And I totally understand that one. And I fell into the mindset of, if you're Maryland, the one thing I understand is, okay, if we can concede that they're leaving for DC, it's the old Denzel Washington line. I'm leaving here with something. Like, tell me what I can get out of this if they're still leaving, which I'm sure you're about to get into, but leads me to the whole, we want a squadron of fighter jets now.
Yeah.
Which I also dangerously said, okay, if this is what you want, is this going to be it? And then clearly after this morning, no, it is not all they want. And that's where I thought this whole thing was going to get weird, was how much more do you want out of this thing?
But even then, okay, them going to the ownership and the league and saying, we want to know what you're doing with this land, because that's a fair question. Like, that's a totally fair question.
Yes.
Give us your National Guard fighter jets. Like, I could see, like, what expression do you make when they actually say that to you? Because Josh Harris and Mitchell Rales are sitting there going, we don't have control of the National Guard. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and then Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's like, I don't even have a vote, pal. Like, you think I can go tell the National Guard where to put the planes? And then secondarily, it's like, what would one have to do with the other whatsoever? So you're like, I could just say crazy stuff too. You're like, well, fine. I would like to own the Chesapeake Bay now. Like it's just like, it's ridiculous. Like, so this is why I never thought this would happen. It's these ridiculous things. These are hurdles you can't even jump over. But how in the world could the NFL or anybody promise that you'll get National Guard jets from Washington, D.C.? It's an utterly ridiculous thing to ask for. Like, when the Montana senator is standing in the way of moving this forward, at least it's about IP that's owned by the team and they can do something about it. As ridiculous as I thought that's what he was grandstanding about, but like, at least it's something that's in their control. This is why I never think this is going to happen, because suddenly someone puts their hand up and goes, yeah, I'll vote for it if I get the rights to protect all platypuses around the earth. And it's like, what in the world? Like, can we just talk about the use of this land? And apparently, welcome to Washington, you can't.
On that front, too, I researched a little bit last week while you were on vacation. The planes are actually already stationed in Maryland. So the move actually isn't like this crazy, oh my God, transfer of whatever. And
yes, but one doesn't have anything to do with the other. It's
no. I get it. But also, like, let's just unpack it for like 2 seconds with that. And then you know how it works in this area. When they deploy the National Guard, a lot of the times it's from all three jurisdictions to wherever it needs to go. So like, for me, I was like, okay, what are we really transferring here? Because if DC calls Maryland and says we need your help with something, I think they're going to oblige, Yeah,
like, but I'm just saying, like, now we got to make a phone call to some general somewhere and explain to him that we need you to okay this to put a football stadium somewhere. Like, that's a serious person who's going, I'm taking this phone call. And why am I taking this phone call?
No, I agree. It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, it's just like labels to me. That's all it is.
I understand. It's ridiculous. I get why Maryland's standing in the way. They're trying to keep the team. Like, I get why they're doing it. And this is why I never thought it would happen, because these are the things that pop up, especially at the last minute. Muriel Bowser's been doing interviews. She did one with Keim last week. So I think she thinks that this is going to happen. And then I think she thinks that, we forgot the other part, even if they do pass this, which is a week away from being very much up in the air in perpetuity again, even if they do it, like, they still got to get the city council to do it, which I think would happen, but I don't really actually know. And then I assume they appeased Ted enough that he can't get in the way of whatever would actually happen if we get through steps 1, 2, and 3. But steps 1, 2, and 3 are, I mean, it's like the impossible dream. Like, you can't, every time you think you're like inching closer to it, someone puts up a roadblock that makes no sense. So it's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Every time you turn a corner, there's a giant ball rolling at you.
Spikes.
Or maybe, right, some guy's going to grab your heart and show it to you. Like, it's just, there's no, There's no answer. It's just a maze. You're going around it. It's the Hall of Mirrors. And every time you look in there, you think you found the answer, that someone asks for something preposterous that isn't going to happen, especially in a day. So, like, I know how the wheels of legislation move, having lived here my whole life. They don't move like this. You need to actually have a committee meeting with the National Guard about where planes are going to be stationed and who's in control of them to get a football stadium. And, oh, by the way, you have to do it by Friday? Give me a break. Like, so I don't know. I guess 50-50 is the way I'll put it now. And can Goodell push and lobby some of these senators and go, the question is, what does he give Maryland? That's really the question here. What can the NFL do for Maryland to allow this to happen?
So I actually thought about this too. You know, we had all the talk here about, oh, well, if they build a new stadium and they need to make nice with DC. What did we say? The draft, right? So does he need to go to Westmore and say, does Baltimore want to have the draft at the Inner Harbor? Like, is that something that interests you, or do we need to make sure we put you on the opening night again or something in Baltimore? Like, it's the only thing.
You can't do a Super Bowl because it's open air stadium, but
no chance. Yeah,
but you could do the draft.
You could do the draft. You could, like I said, make some kind of loose promise of opening night or whatever, or like opening weekend, make them prominently known. Like, I don't know what you can guarantee them because you honestly can't. You could also, do something where the team is still in Landover and it benefits them somehow before they move to DC. I don't know what that looks like. I'm just throwing out there what he can do, but I don't know. His hands are a little tied here too. There's only so much he can do to kind of smooth things over. So I don't know what Westmore wants here either. And all I'm saying is, for you to say, we want a squadron of fighter jets that are already stationed in Maryland we want the federal government to pay $1.9 billion for that bridge. Where do you get that jump from? That's where I'm kind of like, whoa, like, what are we doing here with the demands here? You did not inch up to that one. You just kind of plopped that one on the table.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll see over the next week, because if it doesn't happen in the next week, it is not going to happen again for who knows when, because they're going to leave. And when they come back, it's going to be a whole new administration. And who knows if it'll even come up again. So we'll just have to see. All right. The other thing that's going on, obviously, is the Noah Brown injury. This is bad. I was doing the numbers like last night, just looking at all the other receivers, and all of them combined have like 60 catches in 13 games, like combined. So someone, I don't know who it's going to be, but someone's going to step up. I don't think it will be KJ Osborne overnight. I know they signed him, and I think that was the right move because they need another, veteran receiver with this group. But you don't plug in someone like that and expect him to be like a number 2 target. So it's either Zaccheaus or McCaffrey, in my opinion. We'll see if Crowder even plays. This is a big deal. Like, they do not, and this is something that's going to have to be, I'm not surprised by this, but they're going to have to do something about this in the offseason, which is address the explosiveness of their offense. Terry McLaurin down the field really symbolizes the only explosive player that they have on offense. And then when B-Rob goes out and the run game isn't as effective, you see how teams react to that. This is going to be interesting this week. Like, who actually steps up and becomes the secondary target that is someone that a defense fears at all? Because Brown, not going to sit here and pretend that he's Brandon Ayuk or something, but he was feared enough by the defenses because he could go downfield. He drew a lot of penalties. He was a true secondary target for them. Without him, this could be a work in progress for the rest of the season. So this is really, for this team, this is a very tough injury.
I think you have to look to Dyami Brown too. I mean,
yes.
he's a guy that's flashed over the years, not just this year, but he's flashed over the years with some of these roles where he's stepped up and, caught some deep balls or whatever and had his moments there. I will add his name into the list here. But yeah, when I saw that was kind of your, we don't really call them this anymore, but Noah Brown was your definition possession receiver, right? Like, he was good to go for those 3rd and longs and just get 10 yards and go down, right? So I'm with you. He's actually been pretty important here. And I always, kind of complained when they didn't get him going until the second half, a lot of games, because I thought you got to get him a couple targets to get him going. And yeah, I don't like this one at all because their receiving core is so thin, and it's been by committee. He's been the biggest part of that committee.
No doubt. Real quick, I'll probably mention more of this tomorrow, but Hey, Chase Young, I see you. Chase Young, he only has like a 3.5 sacks, something like that. But he's top 5 in quarterback pressures down there. And, obviously this week I started watching. I haven't watched a lot of them this year, but I started watching them this week to get ready for the game. And it was nice to see. He actually looks closer to the guy his rookie season than he ever did the last couple of years with Washington. A lot of that was based on knee stuff. And I know like everybody's got mixed feelings about him or whatever. I didn't dislike the guy. Like, I know why he's not here. It was all injuries. And I wasn't sure the dude was ever going to play again after what I had learned about his neck injury. And it was actually, I hope he doesn't take advantage of us, but like I was pleasantly surprised to see how effective he was. So I see you, Chase Young, and I'm glad things are working out for you down there.
No, he looks I've seen him a few times this year. He looks much more decisive this time around. Like we saw this actually in that first game back from him against the 49ers a couple years back, where he like looked okay. It looked like his decision-making was fine. And then it's the indecisiveness that kind of got him in the end. He's actually seems to be pretty comfortable there in New Orleans. So I'm with you. And like you and I talked about this when he got traded. If he ends up turning into the Jadeveon Clowney that signs a 1-year deal for a bunch of years after this, that's still a very good way to live your life if you can go ahead and do that. So I'm with you. I'm glad he's settling in is what I'm getting at.
All right. Be right back. Bram wants to show us be at 6:30, the Sports Capital. Welcome back. I can't believe he did it. I can't believe Bill Belichick actually took the North Carolina job. I've spent the last 2 days when you weren't here going on and on and on just about, I think it's a pipe dream to build what he thinks he's going to build down there, that he's going to make this a professional operation. Not everybody's working in the same boat here. Like everybody in the NFL has a salary cap. There is no such thing in college football. Teams it's always going to come down to money. You can pretend that like, oh, playing for Bill Belichick is going to be a better, path to the NFL for you. Sure. Yeah. But USC's paying me $3 million. How about you, guy? And when they don't, I don't see it. So mark me down here and put me on freezing cold takes. They're not going to become championship contenders overnight. Like, no way. And at his age, will they become even consistent enough to be in this playoff, even in the expanded version of it? I'll believe it when I see it, actually. I don't, if he had done this at, I don't know, one of those SEC schools like Auburn, who's like, you know what, like we need to bring something in here, but they've got the coffers to do it and the history of doing it, I would somewhat more buy into this. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think this is going to work the way they envision this at all.
I am not as negative on this as you are. I will say this, though. We have figured out what the line is. What team will let him come in and have full autonomy? And it happens to be UNC football. Like that's where it lands, because this seemed to be the whole entire thing over the last couple of days. It wasn't just hiring Bill Belichick. It was hiring him and his son, because that's a caveat of this whole thing too, is he wants his son to basically be named head coach in waiting, which we've never seen in football ever. We've seen it in college.
Basically telling the athletic department there, you have no say in anything here. We have all the say.
Correct. And so when things started heating up here, I said, oh, wow. I went the opposite way of you. I didn't think it was a farce. I thought this is the NFL saying we don't want you to do it the way that you want it to be done here. That's pretty much where I landed.
I wouldn't say I think it's a farce. I think the idea that they're going to attract a ton of players comes down to money. It doesn't come down to whether you like Bill Belichick or not. Like Nick Saban quit the sport. What about that gave Bill Belichick the idea that now's the time to get into it? Like, think about that for a moment. Like Nick Saban, greatest coach in college football history, said, you know what, guys? I can't take this. They've got way more money and way more history in this sport than North Carolina does. And Bill Belichick is convincing himself that it's going to be different for him when it wasn't for Saban in a better situation. This is why I don't think this is going to work out the way that he envisions. Will he be good at it? Sure. Will the teams be competitive? Yeah, absolutely. Will they be a national championship contender every year? I'll believe it when I see it. Like, not unless they got $100 million to start paying the players. Like, that's not going to happen. And the other thing that I think is risky about doing this, and I know all the money's in football, they have period, a top 5 all-time traditional brand basketball team. And you know what they just did? They basically said that is second fiddle to this here. Second fiddle to this here. If I were them, that is offensive. Like we are North Carolina, and you know this. And they basically said, we're going to put all of our resources into this side of it, even though we've never been consistent at it. I think this is a bad mix that's going to end up not the way they intend. It's not going to ruin his legacy or anything, but I don't think this is going to work out well for anybody down there.
The other part of this too is who hires a coach gives him this much control, and we know he's probably going to be done in 3 to 5 years. Like no matter how good or bad it goes. Like that's what I'm getting at. Like what if he's really good actually, but after year 3 he goes, I'm 75. I'm good. Like nobody's going to fault him for that.
I'm going to just go hang out with my 24-year-old girlfriend. Bye.
Right. So like that's the other part of this where I'm kind of baffled they're going to give him this level of control, knowing that he's like not just at the end of his career, but like the twilight of his career. He's not going to last more than 3 to 4 to 5 years.
If this was Sean McVay, who said, you know what, at his age wants to do it, I would buy into this guy might do this for 15 years if it goes well. And he's got the same credibility that Belichick does have been in the NFL, going to run a pro offense. Guys love to play for him. He'll make them professional ready. Like, I would buy that. At this guy at his age, I can't believe they did this. It felt very desperate to do this. I thought it was offensive to their basketball program, honestly. It's not like there's a history of winning there in football, which is also odd that he wants to do it. And the last part of it that really gets me is he's preemptively basically telling you, I know the NFL still doesn't want me back, which that's the part I really can't believe. Now, he is turning in some 400-page Bible of how he wants things done. So I could see anybody who works for any organization going, if we interview this guy, he's going to fire all of us. Therefore, I'm not even going to recommend we even interview this guy. That said, I can't believe there is not some owner. He is within earshot of the all-time wins record. And there's not one owner in the NFL going, I think we should talk to him. Not one. Like, what do you mean? Like, how is he not a viable candidate to get back into the NFL?
I'm 100% with you. And I know that the NFL is all self-preservation. So maybe these conversations are being shut down fast. But there are like 2 franchises I would circle right away. The Raiders, just because that's a Davis move, right? To hand them that. And then you have Brady as a part owner. So all of a sudden you'd be bringing that over. And 2, the one guy that I actually thought would have been interested in doing this, and we heard a little bit of talk of it last year, is Shad Khan down in Jacksonville. Like, how do you not give that guy a chance to just take over the program? Because like you're the one that said, oh, this is the best Jags team ever that we're about to roll out there. And they sucked. Like they weren't just bad. They sucked. And you have a franchise quarterback there. Those are the 2 that I circle right away and go, how are you not at least giving this guy a chance to revamp your program?
I got one more, and I actually think it would have been perfect. Cincinnati has an all-world quarterback. They had a really bad year. That place isn't like traditionally, it's run by the owner, right? It's not a robust like front office. I can't believe they didn't go, we got Joe Burrow in his prime. Bring this guy in here, let him run the whole ship, and let's see how it goes with Burrow. That's the place I would have really thought about with him. But whatever. They did what they did, and we'll see what goes in North Carolina. All right, real quick. I'm sure you saw Tom Wilson's face while you were on vacation, that was something. Then he scored 2 goals after he took that shot to his face. So good for him. Once again, reinforcing why he's one of my favorite Capitals of all time. I love Tom Wilson, plays through that. And tonight you take the C bus. So Caps are back. What do you think off their break?
They should beat Columbus. I will say this, though. Columbus has been a sneaky okay team this year. People thought they were going to be really bad, especially after the tragedy with Goudreau, right? Like that was maybe the worst hockey tragedy that we've seen in the modern era.
They do, just for reference point here, have like the 3rd fewest points in the East. But
but people
pretty good is, let's take that relatively here. Yeah.
No, I get that, but like people really thought they were going to be bad, like disastrously bad, and they've actually turned into a little bit scrappier than I think people think. I think the Caps win this, but Caps have been off for 4 days. You know how this works. 4 days inferior opponent. You're going to be on the road. I'm going to say it takes a period and a half to get the Caps going here. I think they win, but I bet you it's a little close. It's a little close in the first half of this one.
All right. Take that. All right. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Brad watch the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.